that's the first big learning lesson for us, is like everything we do in our company has to be based on the process.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. I'm your host today for today's episode. My name is Brett Gilliland, and I'm here with Janak Mehta. Janak is the founder of Clients Online. You can find out more about his business at clientsonline.com. As the name sort of suggests, they help people find clients online. They help with all the advertising, online advertising, digital marketing stuff to help their clients get to clients online. Janak, welcome to the show.
Hey, Brett, thanks, man. This should be fun.
It'll
Looking
be really
forward to
fun. Yeah, so
it.
I don't usually interview people that I've known for a long time. I'm usually just meeting them for the first time for this show. But Janak and I have known each other for a few years, maybe even several years at this point, as time flies. And we've been in similar circles, and it was fun to see this come together. So thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so tell our audience a little bit more about Clients Online. Just get it squarely placed in their mind what you guys are doing, and then we'll jump into our questions.
Yeah, sure, Brett. Thanks. So what Clients Online does, we are a growth partner agency, growth marketing agency, and what we do with our partners, what we call our clients partners, we partner with them. We help them with advertising, marketing, and installing sales team, so that they can actually launch, optimize, and scale their businesses, right? And most of my clients, they are seven-figure plus, and they're looking to scale faster. That's my ideal client profile. We have clients who are typically online businesses, whether they fall into two categories: experts and e-commerce entrepreneurs. So, like, experts being info products, coaching consultants, and then on the physical product side, e-com products. They have Shopify store, and they have multiple SKUs, multiple products, and they want to scale their business faster. So that's who we help.
Yeah, all right, very good. Okay, talk to us about the not all the way back to the early days of starting up, but actually, why don't you give a brief, like, we started back then, it was just me. Fast forward to now, we've got this team. Give us a little sense for the growth journey, and then we'll dive into more some of the lessons that you've learned.
Absolutely, yeah. So we started back in 2007. It was my wife and I. We started our marketing agency, and we learned marketing from Dan Kennedy, right? That's where our roots are, right? Yours and mine. And so we saw an opportunity back then in Michigan that we wanted to help small business owners, help them with marketing, whether it's SEO or website design development, building their websites, marketing, email marketing, all of the above. And so early on, it was essentially my wife and I, nobody was working for us, and we were doing all the work. So my job as a CEO, I guess, was to get a client, fulfill on the client, services, report to them, do the client meetings, uh, you know, you know,
Everything.
fulfill all the obligations, and then do this again and again for each and every client, right? So so early on, it was just my wife and I. We started building our team, outside team. So we had outsourced team in India, and so that became easier. But then after that, that became more of a project management. So we started doing more of a project management, right? So getting client, project managing client, and then the work was getting done by someone else, right? Quality testing and everything. Then we had our first VA. That was probably in about 2 years after we launched our company. By 2 years, we had our first VA, and she literally did everything. So she became literally our right hand person, and I was just flabbergasted. I don't know. And again, I feel like if you hear my journey, I think at every single point in time, the inflection point, I think I've been blessed by people, right? So I don't claim that this would have been possible without my team, and they know it very well. And I actually rely on my team, and my team knows that for sure. So this one person, she was again a rock star, and she did everything for us. And then she had the grandma situation happen. She couldn't work anymore. So then we were back to square one, and both my wife and I decided, okay, I think what we did was we just kind of gave her everything. We just got lucky. This was not based on the process. It was just she was a good person, right? So Then we said, okay, we need to actually, next time when we start building our team, we need to actually figure out the processes first. So then what I did was I hired a consultant. She interviewed me for almost 60 days, over multiple days, right, multiple hours, and she turned that into my first SOP. And then from there, I started, I started feeling very comfortable hiring the team, and that became my inflection point that I again found two great people. One of them is still with us, and he's now director of media buy. And I asked him after 3 months of him working with us. This was back in 2014. Hey, do you have more victors in Macedonia? By the way, he's from Macedonia, just
Mm.
happens to be in Macedonia, and it's a tiny country north of Greece, by the way. And he said yes. And now we actually have a team of 22 members over there in Macedonia. From one victor all the way to there, right? So he was responsible initially for doing everything, following the SOP, and now, we have multiple people on the team. They are constantly updating the SOPs for us, and yeah, he's responsible for being a director as a training, hiring, making sure that they are happy, they're following all the rules and the tasks, doing all the tasks, right? So that's the journey, and then after that, I was still client facing, with the calls, and then we hired a client account manager, very first client account manager, and now we have gone through two or three of them, and now we have a rock star client account manager. She's amazing, and she manages like she's my linchpin. She's like almost like a CEO for the company. We are at the point where my wife doesn't need to work in the company at all. Like she's completely not useless, but she's not needed for the company, and she's loving that part, right? So it's been a journey of like us starting together, having one person. Unfortunately, we had to, we lost her, and then turned it into more of a system process, and then from there, we have. Yeah, we now have a team of 32. Same thing happens on the. We have creative team in the United States, where we have director, we have senior media buyers, senior copywriters, we have senior designers, everybody, and the juniors as well. So we have hierarchy built as well over here in the United States. So same model, both countries, and it's been phenomenal. Yeah.
Well, I think some people could pull out, they could like extrapolate some lessons from what you just shared, but let's not make them work so hard for it. Why don't you think about the top, one or two key lessons that you learned as you went from you and your wife doing everything to now you've got a team of, 30 people in a couple countries. That's quite a difference. What are some key lessons for you as you've built the business that might be helpful to other folks?
Yeah, no, I would say a couple of things. The very first one, which I can kind of alluded to, that is having defined process. So before you hire a single person, if you this is my belief that if you don't have a process for them to follow, it's going to be you're going to be relying on the talent, you're going to be relying on the human, right, versus the process. And the moment you rely on human, in our case that happened, when the human leaves, you know you are essentially challenged, right? Like you don't have anyone, or you don't have anyone to take over the process, right? So that's the first big learning lesson for us, is like everything we do in our company has to be based on the process. Now here is what we have discovered, here's what we have done throughout this, I would say, more than 10 years of journey, is anytime there is an exception, that means that client had a request and something happened, whether it was not up to the quality or client is just unhappy for whatever reason. Anytime there is exception happens in the process, we ask this three question. Question number one, is this a process issue?
Hmm.
That means that we have never thought about this exception flow, and this is failing in the process. Okay, we need to update the process. Or is it the person issue? That means that the person who's in that seat, that person did not do what they were supposed to do, and or they may be going through some personal challenges, right? Or is this some kind of tool issue, because the tools we are using, or the tool we are using is at the capacity and cannot fix this kind of exception, right? So when we ask those three questions, we can really get to the nitty gritty of what the problem is, and then we identify the problem correctly, and then we fix it.
Mhm.
So that's what we have done, and this has been trained at each and every level, not just me, my directors, my senior, my juniors. Everybody essentially feels comfortable fixing the issue, right?
So yeah, so I wanna just reemphasize what you just said because I think this is key. Any business owner out there can think through that. When the client experience or the customer journey or the patient experience, whatever whoever it is that's paying them money, if that experience falls flat or something falls through the cracks in some way, you're asking, was it a problem with the process? Did the person get it wrong? Or is there like a
The tool,
tools or software issue of some sort?
yes, something
Yeah. Okay.
where the tool is at the capacity or tool has some issues, right?
Yeah.
Then we can figure out if the tool has issue. Like for an example, we use the media buying, portion of my business. We use a lot of different platforms, whether it's YouTube or Google or Facebook or TikTok, whatever.
Mhm.
Now, sometimes those platform is growing through and going through the growth spurt, and they may break inadvertently they break something, right? And all of a sudden we are expecting to launch campaigns, and the campaigns cannot get launched because their launching capability on that day is severely restricted. Okay, so there is nothing we can do. But then what we do is we then start looking at this. Okay, this happens generally 2 days before Black Friday.
Mhm.
Okay, so next Black Friday we need to make sure the campaigns gets launched 5 days before, right? Or
Mhm.
we have a plan for that. That's it. So that is what we have done in the company, and it's not. I wouldn't say that it's every time that happens, we have the perfect answer, but we don't seem to have client issues occurring from our operations, and that is a huge win for company like me, who's a service-based company, right?
Yeah, it's a
Because at the end
huge
of the
win.
day, yeah, at the end of the day, it's not like let's get more clients. It's actually keeping the clients you have for a long time. That's where we make more money. For an example, like two of our clients, they have gone IPO in the last 2.5 years. Okay, they went public, and in both cases, we have profit sharing and equity, which helped, right? But the reason why we're able to get there is because of our services and our capabilities, right, and operations. So that's critical. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
I would say
good.
that's the first. That's the first one. That's the second one rather. First one was having a SOP, and then second one is figuring out the process. When there's exception happens in the process, what you do with that. Um, yeah, I don't know if I have a third. If I yeah, I mean the one of the things we do, which I would like to share is with our team. Um, so it's almost like a startup sort of environment we have built in our team. So let me give you kind of a couple of insight into it. So what we do is every single person, whether it's a media buyer or sales team or the copywriters or the creative side, they all have a potential to make more money. The way they make more money is if the campaign they have launched it's working well, like the ad they have written, that's working well, they get benefit, they get bonus for that. Same thing on the media buying side. If the campaign they have launched or the test they have launched and is working well, they get bonus as well. Whenever we scale campaigns, they get bonus as well. So we have the bonus culture. So everybody strives to do better. So that's number one. Number two is we have, at least our team in Macedonia, it's actually we have offices where they go, that they drive and they go, and we have everybody gets Apple MacBook and everything. On Fridays, they get massages. We do company outings on every 4 weeks. Every quarter, we do a long trip for a weekend trip. They travel in Europe. Some of them actually are able to have been able to come here as well, the United States. So we do a lot of team exercise, team building as well, and that helps. That has helped. And the third thing we have done with our team is we have for our 7 executives, we have executive coach, from Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins has business mastery,
Yeah.
so he has a coaching program. So we've hired a coach for last 2.5 years now, and continuing. So yeah, almost 3 years at the end of this year, right? So and she has made a big impact for our team, and I would say those are the things we have learned, we have implemented for our team and operations. Yeah.
Well, I wanna connect some dots here from the very beginning when you introduced Clients Online as a performance marketing agency. It's
Hmm.
interesting to me that that performance thread is throughout, right? That's what you do is performance marketing for your clients, but internally you're investing in performance with your team through the bonus program. You're investing in performance through the coaching program. Like it's all very aligned, right? It's like we perform for our clients, but we're also investing in our people to perform at high levels. One thing, yeah,
Absolutely.
we have a shared acquaintance in Clayton Mask over at Keep, but
Hmm.
he always talked about how happy we would say happy employees or happy team members make happy clients, make happy shareholders,
Hmm.
right? And the emphasis often gets placed on the customer, and that's obviously they're the ones paying us, but and
Sure.
that's right at the center of the focus. But the way we make happy clients is through happy team members, and sounds like you've learned that lesson and are actively involved in making sure those team members are thriving. So that's great stuff. Good job.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean it has happened over the years. So I don't want you guys to feel like, we already knew about this. We have learned on the job. This was not
Yeah,
I didn't
we're all
this
learning.
was a discovery process.
Yeah, that's exactly why we have people like you come on this show. It's like real people learning real lessons and sharing real challenges. So let's talk about even though you've learned and you've done a lot of great things, doesn't mean you're free from difficulty. So let's shift gears and talk about a challenge or something that you've got to wrestle with. We talked a little bit before we hit record, and you've got a unique situation coming up. Why don't
Yeah,
you share that, and then we'll just talk about it for a little bit.
sure. So I guess we have done a lot of right things, and because of that, we have fortunately gotten some great what we call A players. And fortunately they were all young, and now most of my team is getting into like late 20s, early 30s. So they're getting married, they're having kids, right? So the workhorse team I had where they would just essentially work 24/7, right? Essentially not 24/7. We have great work life balance. But yeah, so one of my senior media buyer, Christina, so she just announced this earlier this week that she's pregnant, and it was a big shock for me. I mean, not that they should tell me that they're gonna, but I was like, when did you get the time for it? I'm just kidding. But she's excited. We are excited for her, obviously. But she is such a player where she's acting as not only senior media buyer, but she's also like a manager, and she is like a right hand person for my director. Right, my director was that person almost 3 years ago. Right, three
Mhm.
and a half, 4 years ago now, and she essentially has risen up, and then he's completely, I wouldn't say useless, but he's like he's out of it for a while now from getting involved in deeper day-to-day like fires and figuring out how to solve those tactical issues, right? Not that he's not, I mean, whenever we have issues he always jumps in, and he just had a kid as well 2 years ago. So he's now a new dad. So he obviously has a little bit more responsibility from that side as well. So the question here is, I don't believe that we have done a good job. Like we have few A players, but my fear around this is like when she takes maternity leave, which I want her to, um, how, yeah, we have not done a good job of finding a replacement for her, which obviously nobody can prepare for this kind of thing. The good news is that it's 4 months in the future, right? So we have some time, and we have two senior media buyers who can essentially handle what she has done. But yeah, I don't know if I never came across this issue before. I just always felt like team is doing it and handling it, don't need to worry about this. But yeah, this is a new issue for me. How do you handle when you have A players who are going to potentially go on a leave or maternity leave, right, other than relying on your process and the rest of the other team members? Yeah,
Yeah,
any best
it's a great
practices you have
issue.
figured out? Yeah.
Yeah, Janek, thank you for sharing that. It's a great issue. It's one that lots of business owners have to deal with, like high performing key players who go out often unexpectedly, but in this case, it's like unexpected that it was like you didn't know it was going to happen, but now that it's here, it's like, well, at least we have 4 months runway to
Right.
prepare for it. Okay, so let's just talk about things that might be helpful with this kind of situation. So, one thought that comes to mind for me, Janik, is that you've been growing. Do you expect to grow in 2025, or do you expect to be relatively flat?
No, grow.
Okay, so you do expect to grow, and that's
Hmm.
good news because in a situation where growth is part of the equation, we can think about, well, who would we have hired anyway to help handle our growth? And I
Hmm.
understand this is the senior media buyer. She's more like in a manager role, so maybe you weren't going to have two managers in 2025. Maybe you were. Maybe the team's getting big enough that a second manager would be merited by the time that I don't know, later in 2025. But at a minimum, you should be thinking about how are we going to grow the capacity of the team. Now, do you think your team right now is close to full capacity, or is there like how much of next year's growth can be handled by the current team? How much hiring do you think you're going to need to do?
So not until Q1 to 2025, we don't have to worry about it. But then Q2 and Q3, yes, we'll need to start hiring back. Yeah.
Okay. So, and when you have growth like that, when your company is growing and you got to build out more production capacity,
Hmm.
what roles are often the ones where you're hiring? Is it
Yeah.
media
So
buyers? Is it creatives? Is it copywriters? Like all of the above?
all of the above, unfortunately, yes. But media buyer being the main one, followed by creative, the graphic designer, video editors, and followed by the copywriters.
Okay. How many? I don't know in a 30-person company like yours. I don't know how many media buyers you have. How many media
18.
buyers are there?
18.
Oh, 18 of them. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's actually good news in my opinion. It's good news because it's not like she's leaving and then, there's like two or three others to try to pick up all the pieces. At least with 18, and I'm oversimplifying it probably, but at least with 18, one option is you could split up her duties across a handful of others, right? Maybe not all 18, but there is a group of people there that can
Yes.
provide a safety net. However, where I was thinking first was because I'm like, I know clients online is growing. You've got a good team member base to help cover in her absence. But maybe the way to look at this is if I was going to hire a new media buyer like in Q2, maybe the move is to hire that person more like Q4, Q1, get them going in their responsibility and have one of your more experienced or more senior buyers help step in for the few months
Hmm.
that your team member is going to be gone. Then when she comes back, the business has ideally, right, optimally grown to the place where, we can handle the full load of media buyers that we have. Um, and I know probably part of this equation is you want to be able to do something for her while she's out,
Hmm.
financially, and that doesn't necessarily lend itself to, well, let's just hire, let's get ahead of our hiring plan and bring somebody in. Now you've got maybe a little bit more expense than you had planned for that time.
Hmm.
One thing I did, it wasn't for a maternity leave, but one of my team members had her mother passed away, and she was just grieving and going through some challenges personally, and she needed some space. And I said, okay, you're one of my key people, but I want to help you get some space. So what we did was, I talked to her and said, look, for the first X period of your time away, like I want to keep your pay whole, but the and we're very transparent, but for the business infrastructure to be healthy, I can't pay you full time for the full time that you're out. And so I'd like to keep giving you something so you're okay. But for this part of the time you're away, I'm gonna keep your pay entirely intact. For this other part, this more extended part, I'm gonna lower it down to this. So I don't know what's been communicated. Maybe you already have a policy around maternity, but if you're just kind of like figuring it out still because it's new for your team, you could have an initial period where it's a little richer in the benefit, and then a more extended period where you either say, hey, like there isn't additional pay. You can be out, you can take care of your family needs, but there's not pay for that, or there's a lower level of pay, kind of a maintenance pay mode, till she can come back. So let me pause right there and ask, if you already have a parental leave policy or plan for that of some sort.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we are dealing with this in a different country, and the laws in Macedonia are a lot more stricter than what
Okay.
we have here.
Yeah.
So, as a European country, we gotta give them 6 months minimum, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about her like getting paid for 6 months. That's the least of my worry. My worry is she is such a leadership role, and she kind of keeps the entire team together, and all the things which Victor doesn't see or I don't see, any sort of issues coming back and forth from the senior, I mean, junior media buyers to her, like she kind of masks all of that. She handles all of that, and now everything will be like is going to be exposed, right?
Right.
So that is where I told Victor that, man, yeah, we need to figure this out. And if I look at the bench right now, senior media buyers we have, none of them can literally fulfill her position, so we cannot ascend them. But two of them combined can do a job, with Victor being the oversight. So there is a way we can fix it. It's just, um, yeah. My another fear is, which I have not shared with anyone, but my another fear is like, what if she doesn't come back?
I had that happen, and you
You
might
know,
remember my
and
team member. I had
and
one
that's the
one.
last thing I want. I want her to have a happy, um, like happy pregnancy. Kid is, growing amazing, and then when she feels ready, she comes back, and the position will be there. Uh, but what if she decides not to, right? And
Yeah,
that's my biggest
yeah, Janik, I
fear.
literally had that happen to me. I had my best team member went out on maternity. As she was going up to it, she said, I'm the breadwinner in my family. Like, I need to be able to work. I'm coming back." And the whole time I was like, "Yeah, but you haven't had that little baby in your arms,
I
like."
know.
And when it
Life changes.
happens, who
Yeah.
knows? Like, you might not come back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, she's like, "Brett, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm not coming back."
Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah. So that can happen. So how do we do the best possible
Mhm.
job of I don't know, playing I hate playing prevent defense here or being on the defensive, but like how do we prepare?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you said you're not quite confident right now the current bench could just step in today. So what can we
Yeah.
do to have them sit alongside her for the next three
Yes.
months, right? In
That's
every
what we have to do.
situation, maybe even be super inefficient and have both of them sitting alongside her,
Yeah.
working with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wouldn't have her doing much of her activity alone for the next 3 or 4 months. I would have a
Mhm.
shadow, and maybe they're alternating, right? They're like, okay, Monday and Tuesday it's this person shadowing. Wednesday, Thursday this person. Friday she's spending time with that director, just
Yeah.
talking about things that are and pulling him back into the world that he left a few years ago, right?
Right. Right.
So I don't know. I would say between shadowing, hiring hiring somebody in that might be at that level,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah,
for
that
while
is
she's
quite
gone.
possible. So far, what we have not done is we have kind of raised the talent within. We have not brought in. I shouldn't say that. Twice we have done that, and both times it horribly failed.
Yeah.
It looked promising, and they just like no cultural fit. Uh, we found out later on, even though they kind of fit everything on the paper, and initially it was great. I was like, oh wow, this is possible. But then they shifted
Mm.
once they realized that, yeah, this is the real work we are doing, and they were, yeah. Anyways, so we haven't really done a good job of bringing in outside talent at the mid level, right? Juniors, yeah, sure. Obviously, everybody comes from outside, but yeah. So I guess again, when this if I go back to my own model, okay, is it a people issue? Is it a process issue, right, or the tool issue, right?
Right.
So it's not technically a people issue. I mean, she's pregnant, right? They're supposed to, get pregnant, right? So I think it's a process issue where we have not done a good job of, uh, you know, figuring out the best way to fulfill a mid level 3+ years of experience, right? Yeah, from outside. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and
that is where.
it's hard to give 3 month or 3 years of experience in 3 months. So that
Right.
that's not
Yeah.
practical. But you do have some people who've been with you for a few years who might be getting
Hmm.
close to ready, and if they could shadow her and
Yeah,
then and the director fill in or help out where needed, I feel like that is
I think that's
prob
yeah, that's the way to solve this. Yes, absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's probably your best bet. Well, I appreciate you bringing up something that's very real. As business owners, we want to champion our people's dreams and their what they want to do in their families and have families, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it does introduce a little disruption. It can introduce challenges in our business when it runs really smoothly with them there, and then all of a sudden they're not there. We gotta change it. But that can happen at any moment. And thankfully, you got 4 months, right? You got 4 months
Yes.
to work on it. So, all right, very good. And sometimes, and I'm not saying you should bother a new mother, but after the first 2-3 weeks, sometimes if life starts to normalize a little bit for them, if something comes up where we need a little insight, maybe she's available for a phone call or
Oh, absolutely.
yeah. So thankfully she's not going to work somewhere else. She just
Yeah, yeah, no.
yeah,
And knowing her, I mean, even when she takes vacation, which we have told her several times to, like, we have to force her to take vacation, right?
yeah,
And we have told her on the vacation she is not allowed to open up a laptop. She is still on the Slack, and anyway. So she's an amazing
yeah,
worker, right? Like she loves doing this. So, uh, and my fear was like, if she changes, right, as a new mother, like
yeah.
things change, right? There are
Things
so many
change.
things, right? So,
They change. Well, speaking of change, our businesses change, people change, lots of change, and the
right.
market changes. We're constantly dealing with that. So, thank you for bringing a fun issue, Janik. If people want to learn more about clients online or connect with you on social, how would they do that?
Yeah, it's very simple. Just go to clientsonline.com, or they can go to scalepaidads.com. That's another website. And on social, first name, last name, JANAK MEHTA, Janak Mehta. You'll find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok,
Yeah.
and YouTube. Yeah. Where else? Pinterest. Yes.
Everywhere
Twitter.
ads
Yes.
are sold,
Everywhere else.
right? You'll be there. All right,
I'll be
Janik.
there.
It's been fun to reconnect and spend some time with you on this interview. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. This was fun.
Okay, for everybody out there listening, please like, share, review, comment, do all those things to help this episode and all these other episodes get in front of as many seven-figure business owners as possible. We want to help all of the business owners with the insights and the challenges that these real business owners are bringing to this show. We appreciate them and encourage you all to keep growing. Please tune in next time for another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast.